You gotta keep reminding yourself is precisely that is both resilience, both persistency, consistency is what ultimately going to give you that win in fundamentals. So I got a lot of talks. Things change all the time. Right now we got the tariffs, we got larger competitors, we got clients demanding way more. You can name all the positives, and it's all about reframing those challenges and ultimately reminding yourself that if you're consistent, you go back to basics, to fundamentals, continue to push through and forward, good things are going to come. It might not be that sale, but it might be a lesson.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff Lakusta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia, Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
Okay, everybody, good morning or good afternoon. Jeff, it's so great to see you. We have a new guest today.
We do. It's great to see you too. And it's great to see you, Juan. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely excited to be here. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Welcome, welcome. So long story short, as you know, Jeff, I speak with rocks as well. And I've met Juan in a company manager's offsite. And, energies and vibrations and glimmers. Juan ended up sitting next to me. And I was like, oh, you don't seem like the normal Googler. And so as we started talking, I was fascinated by his life. And so I'm hoping that today we get to know a little bit more about that. But let's start with, what are you up to these days, Juan?
What am I up to these days? So I'm in Mexico City. I'm recovering from double knee surgery. I had surgery in November and I had a surgery in January. It's a lifetime of sporting. I look at it positively. I basically told my team, guys, I'm getting it as a surgery. I got to get it. Right now, if I want to go back to play tennis and soccer and be active. And the bad thing is I'm going to be out of the office for a few months. I mean, actively working. But the positive side is I'm getting 2 new knees. So I look at it positively. I'm right now in a recovery phase. I'm off the crutches. I'm back at the gym. They're just really taking care of me as it relates to my legs because they found like a small clot. So I'm in medicine. But look, we're going to recover from it 10 more days and we'll be home free to continue fortifying, strengthening my leg so I could go back and play tennis, which is one of my latest passions.
Sounds like you got as much use as you could from the old knees and now plan on getting as much as you can from the new ones. I like the positivity, but that's not an easy thing to get on the other side of.
No, I mean, Jeff, my knees gave me my scholarship. I played soccer in college in the US. And so I owe my legs my education. And it was a time for a change. And we just did it.
That's such a good way of putting it. Literally, we've been speaking for 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And you've already revealed, Juan, a lot of your life philosophy. And would you mind spelling it out for our listeners? Because I get goosebumps, but it's very clear that you are somebody that has a zeal and that gets what they want. Is that right?
I mean, I don't look at life as a trajectory that's just like this. I look at life like this. Ray Dalio calls it the hero's journey. So we all have failures. But we learn from it. We learn the lesson. And if we don't, then we don't continue to actually go up. But you asked about my philosophy. I believe that if you honor your values, you're happy. And actually, what resonates with me is actually just defining those values, which are 3. One is passion. I think you can sense how passionate I am and that actually translates with love. The number two is growth. And that also translates across the board. It translates both in career, physical, emotional. And the last one is legacy. And so what I try to do every day is remind myself that I got to do some actions that ultimately are going to honor these values. And that makes me happy. But I also utilize those values as I lead my team. And I actually come and reflect about those values. And I try to like, guys, we got to be passionate about the products that we have, the clients that we work with. We got to grow, continue to show that confidence and mastery. And then last but not least, I really care about my people. So I say, regardless of Google, regardless of the chair that we're sitting in, I really want you guys to succeed. And, I'm a big fan of Macklemore. Not sure if you guys heard about the song Glorious. It's an amazing song.
I know the song, but tell me, more about
it's
why.
an amazing song. And what resonates about it is there's a piece in the song that says, I heard you die twice. One, when they bury you in your grave, and the second time when somebody mentions your name. And, that resonates with me as it relates that you just don't die. I mean, there's people in my life that have actually been amazing, and I still remember them with a lot of love and passion. And I want to be that, not just with my family, but I want to create that legacy with people that I work with and I interact, which actually goes in my purpose, which is to create positive ripples in the world.
There's a lot to unpack, I think, in what you've just shared. But one especially that sticks out to me is how action oriented all of this is. Put in the work, find the values, and then I've got to take some action in order to be happy living out the values. Yeah. How did you come to learn that action is a part of it? Maybe, it feels like doing the work to find out your values could then be almost a passive, like, great, I've got them. I'll keep it on a Post-it note and remind myself of that. But it sounds like quite a bit more active for you. What does that actually mean to take action to live your values?
A lot of people just talk and they don't walk the talk. And I've had, my folks are extremely inspirational. And, I grew up in Colombia, South America at a time where, we had a lot of guerrillas and, drug trade. And I had very hardworking parents, both of them dentists, and they're not dentists like the US where they make a lot of money. They work for the government, tending to 40 patients a day, as well as, we had to raise 4 kids. I'm the oldest of 3. They always instilled in us basically to just, fulfill our dreams. But fulfilling our dreams wasn't just like dream. They always showed us a path, and they made us basically not just define the vision, but actually define the steps and the action. And so I'll tell you a story. So like I said, I played soccer all my life, or not all my life. I haven't played in 10 years. Again, my legs kind of retired. And at 15, 16, my dad said, there's actually scholarships in the US. If you want to play, and then if you want to continue playing professionally, that's going to be a huge opportunity. But I mean, rest assured, how many kids do you know that get scholarships in the US, much less coming from outside? And I said, Dad, how am I going to, make that happen? We didn't have cell phones, and that was 1994. And what I did was, I basically said, how are you going to make it happen? And so I basically went to the library, my school, took one of those, remember those GMAT, like big books where they had all the schools. And I look at Division I schools, and I look at the contacts for the coaches. And then I asked my neighbor, I borrowed a VCR. I'm not sure if you guys remember a VCR Betamax. Taught myself to edit my videos in soccer. Had a loan from my mom to get 50 tapes, and snail mail. I sent 50 tapes to the US. Wow. And rest assured, that's how they came to find me at NC State to get that scholarship after like pushing throughout many months and making it happen. So to make a long story short, again, people talk too much, but they don't walk the talk. And action is ultimately what honors your values and makes you happy.
I have so many angles. I don't know where to begin. Shoot. Oh, God. I really loved what you said about your parents inspiring you and showing you the way and giving you the tools. It also sounds to me that you were a naturally resourceful child. I hear a lot of stories of a lot of parents that give tools and inspirations to their children, but then it's up to the children to take it. And just I Googled the other day, we were talking about winning isn't for everyone. We were talking about, I always use this metaphor of ducks and eagles. I
Mm.
always say to my clients, you got to decide if you want to be a duck or an eagle, because if you're a duck, chances are you won't become an eagle. Like
Yeah.
that's how nature is.
Yes.
You look to me in the category of the eagles
Thank you.
in only 9 minutes of conversation. And, as you know, eagles also go through a lot of pain.
Mm.
There's a story that they cut their their nails when they transform. Like there's a lot of thing about the pain. So I'm wondering, Juan, which is the pain that you endured to get where you are today? Because your life, I'm sure, wasn't easy.
I mean, I think I told you a little bit of that story when we sat next to each other. We'll tell Jeff as well. So, I come to the U.S. I fulfill my dream to study at a great Division I school, play at the ACC, NCAA's, number 2 in the nation. This is great. And then I graduate college, and they give us what they call an optional practical training, which is a green card for a year. And so I get a job at a startup. Great technology company in Research Triangle Park. That is Chapel Hill, Durham, and Raleigh. And 2 years into the job, which I loved, the company sold its technology to another big tech company. And they said, they were sponsoring my visa, by the way. And they said, Juan, we're not going to be able to pay you anymore. I mean, the company's pretty much given its technology and ceasing to exist. You've been a great employee. There's 2 choices here. You can go back to Colombia or you can stay. And so, but we'll pay your insurance for 6 months. That's it. You're not gonna get a salary. You're not gonna get anything. And so here I am at the crux of life, where is, okay, should I take the easy route or should I continue fulfilling my dream? And I said, cocky 22-year-old, oh, I'll get a job tomorrow. They'll sponsor my visa. And, rest assured, it was the bubble burst as it relates to the internet back in 2001. And so I had to make a choice. I literally had to get a job as a waiter in a restaurant for 6 months. And, there was 2 choices there. The choice of just being mad at the world because, life has dealt you those cards. And actually, there were friends of mine that were coming to the restaurant, people that I tutored in accounting. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, can't believe it's just because of a job and a visa that I can't fulfill. But I made my choice. I said, I'm going to become the best waiter in the world. And by the way, I'm going to learn how to cook Italian. You guys come to my house. I'm a great Italian cook. And I'm going to meet and network just to open the game to see if I get something. And so through the restaurant, I met my future boss. Through the restaurant, I learned how to cook. Through the restaurant, I also got offered to become the manager of a restaurant that I opened like 6 months later. Through the restaurant, I got, a lot of things. And I'm so grateful for that experience. I mean, I had a time clock. It was 6 months and then, or out. And I chose to look at it positively, and I chose to reframe the challenge. So that was challenging, but then I found my way again. I'm actually, I have a love for restaurants and cooking. I actually co-own 2 restaurants in South America. With a
full circle there.
We have to go to Mexico City, Jeff.
Yes, please.
Yes. So it's full circle. And you talk about life, and all dots connect. All dots connect. Every experience connects. So I guess the point being here is just have an open mind, reframe challenges, and go positively with it. So that's just one of many failures or challenges that I had in life that have ultimately given me the tools to continue becoming who I am because we grow every day.
How does this show up for you now as a leader of other folks? Because I think it is really natural, and you're describing kind of when hard things happen. I want to sit there and be mad too, like I think everybody can relate to that. And it sounds wonderful to hear the journey over, a longer period of time that it all worked out and now it's come full circle. But how does that experience actually influence the advice maybe that you give to people when they're facing that in the moment? They are feeling mad, maybe feeling sorry for themselves. What does it actually take to overcome that in the moment?
I mean, in sales, we basically get a lot of negatives. I mean, this is a game of 90% at bat, you're probably not hitting. And so you have to have a mentality within the team that, you're resilient. I always go back in terms of sports to fundamentals and consistency. So a lot of people just like go in, they try, they fail, and they quit. And what you gotta keep reminding yourself is precisely that, is both resilience, both persistency, consistency is what ultimately going to give you that win in fundamentals. So I mean, I got a lot of talks. I mean, things change all the time. Right now, we got the tariffs. We got larger competitors. We got clients demanding way more. We got. I mean, you can name all the positives, and it's all about reframing those challenges and ultimately reminding yourself that if you're consistent, you go back to basics, to fundamentals, continue to push through and forward, good things are going to come. It might not be that sale, but it might be a lesson. And I go back to a quote that I saw when we were at the offsite, which is Kobe Bryant. There's no losses, there's lessons. And I love that quote.
No losses, only lessons. Okay, I'm gonna drop one of my Nadia's bombs now. Because so you are preaching to the choirs. Like Jeff and I are very much of your mindset. We are grinders, we're dreamers, we're go-getters and resilience, and we don't look at obstacles. We just set a dream and we go for it. At the same time, the world is not like us. I would argue that majority of the world around us is not at all like we are. Probably, I don't know percentage wise, but I think we're 10% of the rest of the society. It's true that we attract people like us algorithmically, so we got to be careful there not to be in our own echo chambers.
Sure.
But how do you select the people that you hang out with? And I know that this seems a non-relevant question, but you'll see how we'll come full circle. It's kind of hard when you find all these what do they call them in America? Downers?
Debbie
Yeah,
Downers.
that works.
Yeah.
What is it?
Energy
Debbie.
drains, red light people. There's so many different words for
I
it.
call them vampires. So
Yeah, energy vampires, Debbie Downers. Yeah.
Debbie Downers, that's the word I was looking for. And sometimes it might happen that your boss is a Debbie Downer because we don't choose our bosses. Or sometimes it's the people that work for us or our clients. So how do you conduct yourself when you are in situations where you can't control those folks and you're like, this is like hurting my energy? What do you do?
I mean, personally speaking, I'm going to speak professionally and personally. Personally speaking, I've actually gone through a cleanse. And all these relationships, just like you do a cleanse, when you eat, or you do a cleanse when you stop drinking, or, I've learned to cleanse also my relationships. And with age, I've also been able to identify people that, as you said, they're vampires. I worked for 15 years at Fox, and in 2019, you had the merger with Disney, or not the merger, the acquisition of Disney. And, at that time, I went through the whole transition merger, the whole firing and, looking at structures for ESPN, Disney, and Fox. And after the fact, I lost my job. At the time, I was an executive vice president overseeing all of Latin America. I had previously been a senior vice president in the US. And, you have a lot of people that actually want to be with you because of your title and position. And they basically just kiss your ass. And so I went through a whole cleanse of relationships. You will be actually surprised how many people, once you step out of your job, stop calling you, or, and so I went through a huge cleanse. So I've actually made a huge point personally to just make sure that I pick my relationship with people that are actually making me better every day, challenge me. Professionally speaking, you encounter a lot of people like that as well. So, it's about working with and through them. As you said, I have a phenomenal boss, probably most competitive person in the world.
Your boss is incredible. I love him as well. Can he be my boss as well?
He's good.
Tell him.
He's a very competitive dude. But I've had people that, again, they're Debbie Downers at work and they just don't see they just give up easily. And so it's a sense of accompanying these people to reframe the challenges, help them basically see the path, and create steps and actions ultimately that they start seeing quick wins, not in the big win at the end, but it's like, okay, we're going to go back to fundamentals. We're going to do this. Let's test it out. And so that's the way that I've actually been able to help. And they've actually helped me. They've been my masters at that point as well.
This idea of cleansing relationships that aren't serving you, focusing on the ones that are making you better. I'm curious to hear maybe the other end of the spectrum as well, or to unpack for us how strategic you are, if at all, on adding people to your life that make you better. Is that a thought process that you think of, or is it more, I go into the world and kind of keep a filter to see what happens? Or are you ever out there going, I'd really like to get closer to that person?
Yeah, I don't know. From a cultural standpoint, where usually, I keep kind of like my friends that I grew up with from college. I've actually made very close relationships at work as well. So to your point, I've identified people that I just want to, partner with to emulate, because I'm just extremely inspired by. So I've actually made it a point to reach out to people. One of my big mentors is Hernan Lopez, he was a founder of Wondery. He sold the company to Amazon for $150 million. And previously he was a CEO of Fox International. So he was my boss's boss. And as a young executive actually going through the ranks, I made it a point to just reach out to him for inspiration and to just understand a little bit about his playbook. And it was tough. He didn't like me at first. So I had to win his trust, to bring results, to just show him how passionate I was about, his vision. And ultimately, he actually was the one that took me from New York to Miami to lead Latin America. So I do make it a point but very picky, very strategic, make it a point to open my life and heart to the learnings of people that I admire and that I want to, emulate, that have good energy.
I love hearing that because it makes it feel very approachable. If our podcast is about bringing down barriers and facades that make things maybe hard and unobtainable, the fact that you're being really, sophisticated almost in how you think about your values and how you think about the people around you, and you're designing this intentionally on purpose. Well, I can do that. I don't know if I can just brush shoulders and randomly meet the kinds of people, but to think of it as something that I have more control over, that's an empowering thought. So I love just kind of putting a pin in that as something that makes this approachable for all of us.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to build on what you said, Jeff, because I'll be very honest. When I first met you, Juan, I'm like, this is somebody born lucky, like you're like good looking and soccer player, and I can tell like you like money. You know what I mean? Like if somebody see you from the outside, you have it all. Like you're one of those magazine cover type of people that if somebody doesn't know you well, might be intimidated by. And, when Jeff and I decided to launch this podcast is because we really wanted to show people that even those that appear extremely successful, like you are, I mean, somebody are dealt lucky cards, yes, but some others, probably many others than what we think, is because they have a lot of grit and courage and, they put in the work. When I hear about your life, I'm extremely inspired. Must be exhausting, though. Aren't you exhausted a little bit?
Whew, that's a good question. Balancing a lot and having that rigor and organization that I basically look at my task list and it's huge because it has all kinds of things as it relates to both personal, professional. What I find it valuable to really put in a balance is I just finished a book called The Five Types of Wealth by
Oh,
Sahil Bloom.
Salil, I have it here. Is it worth
Yeah.
it? Should I read it?
It's amazing. It's
Oh,
amazing.
I haven't read it yet. Okay.
It's amazing.
I have it in my bookshelf.
It really just talks about the five things that we got to balance out to make sure that we're happy. And it serves as a phenomenal filter. And I'll go into it a little bit, but it's financial. Everybody basically just says financial will give me absolutely everything. But talk to a guy that is actually extremely rich and has no time, has no meaningful relationships, has no health, and his emotional wealth is done. And so the idea being is balancing precisely those five types of wealth, which is financial, time. You have to have the freedom and time, social, relationships, meaningful relationships, health. Without health, you got nothing, and mental. And so I make it a point every day to just read and give gratitude across those ends. And ultimately, I'll confess, I've made it a point to also balance out at that point when I made decisions for my career, also that they have that balance. So I've turned down some jobs and I'll actually, reveal one. I was actually going to be the executive vice president for the Inter Miami, which is the Messi team in Miami. And I chose Google because I balanced out. Yeah, my wife looks at the Beckham documentary and says, that could have been us.
Oh my God.
Rubbing shoulders with David.
Wow.
But the point being is I started balancing out that stuff because I look at jobs and opportunities as well and say, is there's gonna be enough time for the people that I care and love about, like my family? Is this going to go against my, health, my mental well-being? Yeah, financially makes a lot of sense. And actually, this was double what I make, and what I chose was actually just to balance out. So your point, it is stressful, it is a lot, but just you got to put in perspective, across the board, how you're honoring also the gratitude that you have. And then you got to find outlets, Nadia. So, like I said, I used to play tennis every day at 6 a.m. I was about to go nuts because of my surgeries. And now, I'm going back to the gym. That's an outlet, reading podcasts, audiobooks, talking to friends every day also is an outlet. Again, going back to positive and great relationships. So, but we are human, 99 humans. We're human. We get stressed. We have those situations.
I love what you're bringing up about keeping the entire picture, in perspective, because it is easy. And also those of us who maybe are career minded or money minded, maybe we lend ourselves to pay a lot of attention to one of these five areas. But remembering that over focusing on one, while that may go up, if the others go down, your overall happiness, your overall fulfillment goes down as well. So I'm curious, you're telling a story of how you navigated that really well. Has there been a time where maybe you made a decision that did kick that off kilter? It maybe was a decision that was over focused on one of these variables, and what happened and how did you learn that?
Starting my career, I had it very clear. I mean, you have to sacrifice something. My from my 20s to my 40s, I basically focused a lot on building financial wealth. And it was a huge chance. I mean, I'll tell you, when I moved to Miami to manage 11 countries and 280 people, it was a very stressful situation because at the time well, my baby girl was born. We were moving from New York City to Miami. I was doing my MBA at Cornell. So I was traveling back and forth from Miami to New York, and I was traveling all over the world. I literally didn't see my family for, I mean, the first 4 years of my daughter's life. I barely saw her. And so that was a huge off balance as it relates to my social, my time, my freedom, my health. But I knew it had to, I had to build. I knew that sacrifices had to be made to build a foundation for my family to have security. And now that's why I can make choices like telling Inter Miami, I'm not interested, or a social media company that just approached me, we're not going to tell the names, also not. Because right now, I always have that sense of security for now, and knock on wood, and I can focus on balancing the rest parts of my life.
That's very inspiring. What are your next three goals, right? Like, you seem to be somebody that have it all. You got your wealth back, you got your health, family, everything. What do you want to achieve next?
Physically, I want to get back in the tennis courts. So that's exactly why I did my surgeries with 2 months in between, to make sure that I'm back physically in shape to play tennis, and played competitively, at least at almost 50. So, I want to go back to win a tournament, or actually be in the semifinals of a tournament. It's just my passion. I love it. And so that's one goal that I really, truly want to achieve. And I have 4 more months yet till I basically get strength again to go back. My number 2 is definitely to have enough financial wealth to be able not to decide if I want to work or not by 50. So I'm 47. I have 3 years for that. Again, I had the experiences as a waiter, and I had the experiences of Disney, in which basically that was kind of like not a slap, but a wake up call. We grew up with we're going to work for a company for 25 years, retire. And, that's a true lie. And, ultimately we're going to become 50, and the companies are going to start looking at us like, well, maybe this person's replaceable with somebody cheaper. And you start to see that pattern. So I continue to build businesses, and invest in companies, and invest in personal projects. So I just actually finished a house in Acapulco, a year ago. It took me a year and a half. I would go once a month and, look at the project. And right now it's doing phenomenally well. It's a house that hosts 20 people, and, I can put it in Airbnb, and it's actually paying for itself and more, which is great.
Hey, can you send us the address? Jeff and I want to come and visit.
Yeah, we want to be your next guest.
Please do. You guys are more than welcome. And then number 3 is, I do like my job. I want to, go to the next level. So I'm doing everything I can to try to achieve that, via, right now becoming a role model and doing everything I can to deliver and, take it back again to an executive rank.
Can I offer a challenge and get your perspective on it here? Because as much as I love, and I have the same, I've got my list of goals in range here that I can see. I struggle sometimes wondering if the achievement orientation is healthy for me.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you ever think about that, or how you balance kind of the contentment and all of these other maybe, competing philosophical ideas, or if they're not competing, tell me how you kind of make them all happy in your mind. But I do wonder, what is the path to happiness? Is it continuing to chase the next achievement, or should I be trying to sit happy with what I have already? And maybe it's not a choice between the two.
It's a great question. I think
another bomb from Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's balance. I think it's not achievement. We live in a culture of achievement. And like I said, there's no losses, there's lessons. And so I tell you, that lesson came out when, Disney basically said, you're done. Here's your 2-year paycheck. And thank you so much for playing. And, you're defined by 15 years of a phenomenal career, a title that basically everybody opens the door for you. You're getting paid well. And it was achievement after achievement. And I look at life or our ourselves. Think about a house that has multiple pillars that support that house. And a lot of us basically just think about that work as the only pillar. And we do not basically nurture and feed the rest of the pillars. And the rest of the pillars, again, we go back to the 5 types of wealth, but ultimately it goes from emotional, it goes from connection, deeper connections. It goes to, things that ultimately, because again, if a hurricane comes and you just have that pillar that is called work, and that's the achievement, a hurricane comes and the house is gone. Yeah. But if you actually have a hurricane that comes and drops that one pillar, spirit, the work pillar, and you have a spiritual foundation that's strong, a health foundation that's strong, an emotional foundation that's strong, then you're gonna survive that hurricane. So to me, and to your point, I think it's a matter of balance.
I really like that. I still think you might have some skeletons in your closet. Juan, you seem too perfect.
Yo.
But I'll take it for now. And you said you have children.
Yes.
And I'm gonna ask, as a mom, I have 2 girls as well, 8 and 5. I can't refrain myself from asking you, what are you recommending your children in this society that is changing so rapidly? Artificial intelligence, the economy, it's it seems kind of rough. What is your recommendation for them?
So my kids are 10 and 7. And no, since for instance, my little girl and my boy were little, we've instilled a sense of what do you want to do? What's your dream? And how are we going to achieve it? So my little girl, actually, since she was 3 years old, she always wanted to have the point shoes for ballet. But the girls, at that age, they cannot get the point shoes. I didn't know that. She corrected me. It's not pointy shoes, Dad. It's point shoes. And since she was 3, she was working her butt off and doing competitions and practices and everything, consistency back to just a month ago, she got the point shoes. And so culture of one, hard work, and then, getting those goals out there. And then how are we going to basically map out that plan? Again, going back to the fundamentals of consistency. Number 2 is my little girl is named Valentina. Oh. And Valentina, to me, meant a lot because it meant strength. It meant valiente. Valiente is brave. And so I push them to be brave, and they teach me a lot. So I'll tell you a small story with Valentina precisely, and actually Emilio as well. But we were in a cruise with my parents a year and a half ago. And we were at dinner, and at 10 o'clock they said, there's a karaoke up in the last floor. And my mom and Valentina were like, Valentina's like, I'm going. And I'm like, oh, it's 10 p.m. And okay, we'll catch up with you. We'll, close the bill and go up. We get there, and the people that were singing were all adults, and they were singing like professionals. I mean, this was like serious karaoke. It was not like what you do with friends on the weekend.
Intimidating.
And my little girl was just there, doing the line and just kind of like, hey, I want to sing. And she got herself in the middle of an audience of 100 people and sang Girl on Fire from Alicia Keys. Wow. And she got stuck in the middle of, and people just started lifting her up, and how brave she was and how amazing. Just teaches me a lesson every day in pushing herself. My son just did a poetry contest yesterday, same thing. I learned a lot from him. It's about pushing them to be brave and allowing them to nurture and grow within.
So beautiful.
It's such great advice because hard work and bravery are within our control.
Yeah.
And it's real easy to think of your question, Nadia, which is a lot in my mind is externally, like, oh my God, all these things. But yeah, I believe that your children will be in great shape, with hard work and bravery. Holy cow. It doesn't matter what the world looks like.
Yeah.
Things can happen for them. Well,
I'm writing it down. Bravery is in your control. Hashtag.
Juan, we always end our interviews with the same question, and we've covered a lot of ground in this conversation. But when you reflect back on this, what would you want listeners to take away? Kind of what's your one piece of advice here for folks?
Oh, such a loaded question.
Yeah.
I would say, this is a podcast about leadership and humanity. And I would say that there is a way to fulfill your values, both personally and professionally. There is a way to have genuine leadership. There is a way to demonstrate that you can be also vulnerable. There is a way to just again, be happy in both sides. A lot of people actually think, oh, I'm going to be this person personally and this other person, at work. And I've learned that throughout my career. At first, you're like, you start becoming a boss or a manager, and you start saying, no, I gotta be tougher. I gotta be like a little bit more secluded. I gotta be a lot more close because they can know who I am and all that stuff. And that just comes from vulnerability and weakness. And as you continue to mature and define your signature style and leadership, you start realizing that, you have some gifts to the world as well as some weaknesses, and that the best way to portray is to actually look at how you're going to pretty much live those values and live genuinely. Sean spoke about it in our last offsite about, define your authentic self and as you're going to lead. And it was inspiring. And I continue to be inspired by that. I find it that when I show vulnerability to my team as well, when I show that I don't know, when I show that I've failed, when I recognize, I think that people come, you'll be surprised how people come to the rescue. They put your hands, they just lift you up again. And actually, to your point, Jeff, it actually takes the stress a lot also, because you're not there to just solve everything for them, be strong all the time. And that goes for family as well. Honey, I'm not feeling very well today. I feel vulnerable. I need you to help me here. And that people will come from all walks of life, both professional, personal, to just lift you up again.
Beautiful. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
LinkedIn, because I have no social media. That's another tip for you. Yes, I quit social media in 2006.
Wow.
And I realized that was, I respect people who have social media, but it was just a waste of my time. So wow. I just quit that. It's actually being very healthy.
That's discipline. Listen, we're so thankful that you joined us today. Jeff and I will come to Mexico City to dine in one of your restaurants.
In Acapulco.
Well.
Or Acapulco, yeah.
What is it? Acapulco is the name?
Yes.
Where is this?
It's in the coast of the west coast of Mexico. It's like an hour away from Mexico City in a plane, 4 hours in a car. Beautiful. Oh. This is where actually Frank Sinatra in the 60s used to come, and all the stars used to basically come in for their summers.
Maybe we do the 99 Humans book lounge in there.
Yeah, that would be nice. Love it. You guys are more than welcome.
Thank you for being with us. We're so grateful, and you're amazing. So lucky are your friends and your team.
Good luck with the next few days of healing the knees and then with the tennis matches to come.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate the invitation. Un fuerte abrazo. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Wow, this probably is going to go to my top 5.
Such a great conversation. I mean, starting just in his mind, the way the conversation started was to share his values. And that's such a great emulation of other conversations we've had. So, to your point, how can it not be one of the best with somebody who's emulating the very things that then are the advice at the end as
Yeah.
well?
I will spoil alert that I say that after every interview. So they're all fantastic, our
Yes.
99s. Oh, God. Okay. Well, Jeff, what was your favorite part and segment?
I think the consistency, persistency part, which was kind of a bridge between values and action, was the action is not always immediately gratifying, and we got to a Kobe Bryant phrase of no losses but lessons, but I think he talked a lot about how trying and failing and not quitting is such a key piece of the equation. That really resonates with me. I'm in the query trenches of sending books out to agents, getting rejections every single day. Like, it really is such a, you sort of try and reframe it to be exciting, like, okay, I'm one more no towards a yes. But it is very much part of this. And it doesn't really matter where we are in life. I think there's so many areas of life where this advice is exactly what we need to hear. So for me, it resonated in that part of my life because of this piece. But God, when I think more broadly, there's so many areas where I need to just keep after it, keep centered in my values, trying to do what I think is the best next step and continuing to stay positive about that consistency and persistency. So that was something I needed to hear today, and certainly one of my favorite parts of that conversation.
I'm sure your agent is already out there waiting to find you.
There we go. I agree.
I manifest for you.
Yes, we'll make it happen. Talk to your rocks.
Whatever it is, awesome.
All right, Nadia, how about you? What are you taking away?
There were so many segments that I really, really loved. This, and again, generally, this is some of the conversation that you love. That I love. Probably the one that really got me goosebumps even more is the segment where you also picked it up on the concept that bravery is in your control, and that the whole segment about the children and motivating them to pursue their dreams. And this is something that I need reminded, because even though I'm someone that dreams, manifests, and then I do the actions and all the jazz, sometimes I lose my bravery and I lose my courage. And I did a post on LinkedIn the other day because I said, is this like a courage crisis? Because 3 books just got published in the last 2 months about courage that popped up in my feed. And I'm like, are we going through a courage crisis? And I think we are, because taking risks have become very risky.
Yep.
No pun intended. There's so much at stake. There's so people that you love and work and finances and health. And I get it that we always need to build the other pillars. So I really like that metaphor of having all the pillars. But it's really hard. And as an immigrant in America that is alone, I don't have a safety net. And if I make a mistake, some mistakes are more okay. Some others will be less okay because their impact can be pretty big. And so for me, that the whole segment around bravery and the fact that bravery is in your control really reminded me of all the times that I've been extremely brave. And it reminded me that bravery is in our control. And I'm just going to add that today is 4/4. It's a very huge portal for the esoteric people listening. I know you are many out there. And it's a day of further reflection on what are your foundations that you're building for yourself. And as you walk through this portal of magic, what is it that you really want to do and accomplish, and what are the things you're calling for yourself?
I love
That
that.
was a great reminder.
Your comment, just to kind of refresh us on one other really powerful piece of his conversation, was about the cleanse of humans that he surrounds himself with. And I'm recognizing with what stuck out to you that a lot of the kinds of people that take my energy are the kinds of people who focus on things outside their control. You know, when the conversation is constantly about all the bad stuff that I can't do anything about, I find myself drained with a headache, needing a nap, feeling bad. Maybe I can't even place my finger on it, but I do think those things are related for me. And we touched on all of them today, which is partly what makes it such a powerful conversation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can't do anything about the tariffs. That's very much out of our control. We can do a lot of things about other things. And we've always had crisis in humanity. There will always be more crisis. And somehow there's always a way to get through it. I told to a friend yesterday that they wanted to change jobs and they were, very sad from the market condition. And I said, it's true, the market is really hard and you are an incredible professional. There's got to be your dream job out there that is on its way to you. Go
I
get
love that. Just like it's impossible to find an affordable place to live in New York City, and yet everybody's, finding the needle in the haystack. There are hard things that we're accomplishing all the time.
Oh, so great seeing you, Jeff. I
Great
can't
to see you,
believe
Nadia.
we
Thanks,
published.
everyone, for listening. Give
Yeah,
us
we
5
published.
stars.
Oh, yeah, you go.
No, give us 5 stars. Please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. We are entering our final 10 humans. We published today, number 89, which means we are approaching the end here quickly.
I am very excited. I think the book is going to be absolutely magical. I can't wait.
Can't wait. Until then.
Ciao, ciao. Have a nice day. Bye.